And a very warm welcome. My name is Liam Kilby and I'm the Associate Director for the MBA Recruitment and Admissions team here at Saïd Business School, University of Oxford. Thank you for joining us for this special session, Oxford MBA Explore the Programme. Before we begin, a quick note. The Q&A function is now live and we encourage you to start submitting your questions. Keep them broad if you can. Members of our team will be responding throughout and will also answer some questions live at the end of the session. Over the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'll take you through key aspects of the Oxford MBA, from the structure of the program and academic experience to the global opportunities, community life, and what it really means to be part of Oxford. We hope you find this session informative and that by the end, you not only understand more about the program, but start to see why you belong at Oxford Saïd.
Before we dive into the program, we wanted to give you a quick look inside the school, the place where your Oxford MBA experience will take shape. Saïd Business School is a modern, purpose-built space conveniently located right next to Oxford's main rail station. Whether you're in a lecture theatre, grabbing coffee, or diving into research in the Sainsbury Library, you'll have everything you need here to get a world-class business education. This will be your home from Monday to Friday during your MBA year, so let's take a quick look around. While Saïd Business School may be a contemporary setting, it's embedded in a university with over 800 years of academic excellence, a powerful blend of the new and the historic. When you join the Oxford MBA, you don't just become a student at Saïd Business School. You become part of the wider University of Oxford, one of the world's most historic and prestigious institutions. Oxford is a vibrant university city. You'll walk its ancient streets, not just to attend lectures, but to experience some of the most memorable moments of your MBA year. Black tie balls, formal dinners, thought-provoking debates, guest lectures from world leaders, and ultimately your graduation. As part of your Oxford journey, you'll also be admitted into one of the university's colleges, a unique and defining part of student life here. Your college becomes your social and interdisciplinary home, where you can join clubs and societies, build friendships outside of the MBA, and feel part of a close-knit community. It's a place where you follow in the footsteps of Nobel Prize winners, world leaders, and global change makers. At the Oxford MBA, we're looking for the intellectually curious, those who are ready to make the most of this academic playground. The Oxford MBA is a one-year full-time program, beginning in September and finishing the following September. Before you even arrive in Oxford, you'll get access to our pre-program online platform. It's self-paced and designed to prepare you for your studies, helping you build confidence in core areas like finance, accounting, and data analysis. Once in Oxford, your year is divided into 4 terms. We use traditional Oxford names: Michaelmas, Hilary, Trinity, and the long vacation. In Michaelmas and Hilary, you'll focus on your core curriculum, the essential building blocks of business. These are mandatory courses that include subjects like technology and operations management, accounting, and marketing. From Hilary term onwards, you'll begin choosing your electives, and this is where your Oxford MBA becomes truly flexible. Around 60% of the curriculum is elective-based, giving you the freedom to shape your year based on your interests and career goals. We offer a wide portfolio of electives across themes like finance, entrepreneurship, strategy, social impact, and more, including 2 immersive international electives, giving you the chance to explore business in a global context. This is a program designed not only to give you a rigorous foundation in business, but to let you tailor your learning experience, so you walk away with the skills, insights, and confidence to lead in the areas that matter most to you. At Oxford, the MBA experience is about more than what happens in class. It's shaped by what you do outside of it. You might attend a keynote at the Oxford Union, join a thought-provoking speaker event, or get involved with any number of student clubs and societies. Many students take leadership roles through the Student Council or engage with community-driven groups like the Africa Alliance and the Women's Leadership Alliance. where you'll find shared purpose, action, and lasting connection. There's also the chance to represent Oxford at the MBATs, take part in world forums, or help run one of our many student-led conferences and competitions. And when it's time to celebrate, there's the iconic MBA Ball, a highlight of the year that brings everyone together in classic Oxford style. Through it all, you'll build relationships, gain confidence, and find your own rhythm in one of the most vibrant academic communities in the world.
Some of the most transformative learning happens outside the lecture theatre. As an Oxford MBA student, you'll have access to a wide range of co-curriculum programmes designed to give you hands-on practical experience and help you explore potential career paths. You can sharpen your technical skills in the finance lab, prepare for case interviews and client work in the consultant development programme, or tackle real-world challenges through the Impact Lab and the Skull Centre. Entrepreneurial minded? At Oxford Said, the Entrepreneurship Centre offers resources, funding and workshops to support your journey. Whether you're innovating with an organisation or launching a new venture, throughout the year, our Careers Development Centre also runs a talent development programme, a structured series of workshops, coaching sessions and a leadership activity to help you grow professionally and personally, no matter what your starting point is. You will also have the opportunity to apply for these curriculums, learning programs alongside your core MBA. It's all designed to complement your academic journey and to ensure you graduate ready to lead, launch and make meaningful change. When it comes to your career sport, you'll be guided by a team of fully trained career coaches, specialists who work alongside your academic journey to help you build your professional path. Our careers development team is structured around industry experts, which are dedicated advisors focused on technology, consulting, finance and global industries. You'll have tailored support, relevant insight and a guidance that aligns with your goals. Support begins early. You'll gain access to the Careers Development Centre, tools and platforms 12 weeks before you even arrive in Oxford. You can begin exploring sectors, refining your CV and settling your career goals before term even begins. And once you've graduated, that support doesn't end. You'll have a lifetime access to career coaching, online resources and employee connections as an Oxford MBA alum. Throughout the year, our team will support you across 4 key areas. Career decision making, helping you reflect on your goals and choose your next steps. Career toolkits, from crafting your CV to preparing for interview and perfecting your pitch. Industry knowledge, understanding who hires, when they hire, and what trends are shaping the sector. Interacting with employers, connecting with recruiters, alums, and companies to grow your network. It's a comprehensive, personalised, and lifelong career service designed to empower you from the moment you apply through your MBA year and far beyond. Of course, your career journey at Oxford isn't something you'll take alone. When you join the Oxford MBA, you'll be part of a truly global and diverse classroom, surrounded by an incredible group of peers who reflect on the complexity of the world you're preparing to lead in. Our class of 2025 includes 348 students from 59 different nationalities, with an incredible 97% coming from outside the UK. This diversity goes beyond geographical. Students bring an average of 6 years professional experience spanning 24 different sectors, from consulting and finance to healthcare, energy, tech, and social impact. We're also proud to have 48% female students in the 2025 cohort, supporting our ongoing commitment to gender balance in leadership. So whether you're learning in a lecture, debating a case study, or launching a project, you'll be surrounded by people who challenge your thinking, broaden your perspective, and enrich your experience. We take a holistic approach to admissions. We look at 3 key areas of your profile: your academic profile, your professional profile, and your personal profile. Let's take a closer look at what this means. Academic profile: undergraduate degree plus your transcripts. A recognised undergraduate degree 2-1 or higher. If your transcripts aren't in English, you'll need an official translation. GMAT or GRE score. While there's no minimum, competitive applicants often score GMAT 650 or higher, or a GRE 160 verbal or 160 quant. English language proficiency test. This is required if your degree was not taught in English or English is not your first language. Professional profile. Professional experience, which is usually a minimum of 2 years of full-time work. We look for leadership, impact, and international exposure. CV and 2 references. 1 page highlighting your achievements. Your references should speak to your strengths, leadership, and growth. A personal statement. This is where we hear your story, your motivation, goals, and fit for Oxford. Your online assessment, a short timed video completed via Kira Talent. It's a chance for us to see your communication style, thinking, and presence beyond paper. Ultimately, we're not just looking for perfect profiles. We're looking for real people with honest stories. It's okay to share areas of development. What matters is your potential, your reflection, and how you make sense of the journey so far. We're building a class of thoughtful, curious, driven individuals, and we love to hear what you could bring to it.
When you're ready to apply to the Oxford MBA, you'll need to select one of our 5 application stages. Applications open in early August each year, and you can apply in any stage. But given the competitive nature of admissions, we do recommend applying as early as possible. Once you've submitted your application by the deadline, here's what happens next. The admissions committee will begin reviewing applications after the stage deadline is passed. You'll then be notified whether or not you've been shortlisted for interview. If selected, you'll be invited to interview either virtually or in person. After all interviews are complete, the committee meets again to decide which candidates will receive offers. Final decisions are emailed by the decision deadline for the stage in which you applied. So it's important to apply with a complete and polished application and to plan your timing carefully. One of the defining features of the Oxford MBA is it's a 1-year format. It's fast, focused, and designed for ambitious people who want to create impact quickly. There are clear benefits. You'll spend less time away from your career, you'll reduce your opportunity cost, you'll save on living expenses, and you'll re-enter the job market faster with new skills, a powerful network, and renewed direction. But we're also honest about what it requires. A 1-year MBA isn't for everyone. It's academically rigorous, fast-paced, and intense from the very start. It asks you to fully commit and to thrive in the challenge. If that sounds like you, if a 1-year format aligns with your goals, energy, and mindset, we'd love to see your application. Oxford also offers a unique 2-year programme known as the Oxford 1+1 MBA. In this format, you'll spend your first year completing a master's degree in a relevant field from one of Oxford's partner departments, such as public policy, education, environmental change, or even international health. In the second year, you'll join the Oxford MBA cohort, bringing with you an interdisciplinary foundation and a richer academic perspective. This option is ideal for candidates looking to shift sectors, deepen their expertise before broadening it with business fundamentals, or simply take more time to explore and transition careers. And despite being a 2-year journey, the 1+1 MBA remains more cost effective than many traditional 2-year MBAs, especially when you factor the opportunity to be awarded the Pershing Square Scholarship, which covers full tuition and provides a substantial living stipend for both years of study. If you're curious about bridging disciplines or want a bit more time to immerse yourself in Oxford before the MBA, the 1+1 could be the right fit. Oxford offers a wide range of scholarships to support exceptional candidates, and many MBA students benefit from this funding each year. We group these scholarships into 3 main categories. Some require no additional application. You'll automatically be considered as part of your MBA or your 1+1 MBA submission. Others require a separate application, which might include essays, an earlier deadline, or a specific profile. And then there are also the University of Oxford postgraduate scholarships, offered across departments and colleges, some of which MBA students may be eligible for. Funding is competitive, so it's really important to start your research early and understand what's required. You can apply to as many scholarships as you like, but we also recommend quality over quantity. Tailor your materials carefully and make sure your application reflects your strengths and values clearly. Remember, you must apply for scholarships at the same time as your MBA application. Once you receive an offer, it's too late to be considered for most awards. Many of our largest scholarships are tied to earlier deadlines, particularly the January deadline, so planning ahead is key. A polished application is a competitive application. Take the time to get it right.
Thank you for taking the time to explore the Oxford MBA with us. We've covered a lot, from the curriculum and career support to what makes the Oxford experience so unique. But now it's your turn. We're going to move into our live Q&A, so please feel free to keep submitting your questions. Some will be answered by our team behind the scenes, and we'll also answer a few live right now. If you think of something later or want to revisit the details, you can scan the QR code to download our brochure or contact us anytime. We hope today's session has helped you see why you belong at Oxford. Let's dive in.
Okay, hello everyone, good afternoon, or good morning or good evening, wherever it is that you're dialing from today. So my name is Mandeep Mahal and I'm one of the recruitment managers for the Oxford MBA, and I'm also joined by my colleague Sarah Louise, who's in the background. So any questions that you do have, as Sarah Louise has said, please do use the Q&A function and we'll look to get through as many as we can. And these questions can be any sort of questions regarding the programme or the application process. So I expect there may be many of you who are aiming for an application for our January deadline, which is fast approaching, which falls on the 7th of January. Okay, so I can see some questions that have come through. So Maria has asked, can you repeat the GRE score? So yes, thank you, Maria, for your question. So yes, the GMAT or the GRE is a requirement for your MBA application. And we don't have minimum scores. We do have guidelines of what we say is competitive. So for the GRE, I would say 160 or 161 on both verbal and quantitative reasoning is considered competitive. And if it is the GMAT that you are considering, so the GMAT has sort of gone through sort of a new sort of scoring. They've renamed it the Focus Edition now. So 605 or above, I would say, is considered competitive. And I believe the class median sits at 635. I can see a question from Mohammed. Can we upload unofficial transcripts, and if admitted, then submit the official? Yes, I believe that you can. So we will be required to see your transcripts in your application. So that will be your full transcripts. And in fact, I do understand a number will go to, I think your university potentially may have a portal where it allows you to download unofficial transcripts. So yes, that is something that you'll be able to upload in your application. And I would also say if there are any sort of issues or concerns, we would look to reach out to you to in terms of if those transcripts are not acceptable. Okay. Hi, Alex. Thank you for your question. So in terms of scholarships, do candidates have to apply apply to scholarships, and are there no automatic scholarships? So Alex, we do have a good range of scholarships available. So we do have some scholarships that don't require an application. So there'll be no separate application that's required for those scholarships, and the scholarship committee will consider your MBA application for those particular scholarships. So no further application is required for those. But then we do have some scholarships that do require an application. So I would encourage everyone to have a look at the funding and scholarship pages that we do have on our website. And in fact, if you go onto the MBA scholarships, it does actually list which scholarships do require an application. So please do have a look at those scholarships. And if you do feel that you meet the requirements for that particular scholarship, then please do think about how to put in a strong application for those particular scholarships. Your MBA application and your scholarship applications do need to be submitted together. And in fact, actually, as my colleague Hazel mentioned in the virtual session, that those scholarships that require an application, they do tend to fall within that January deadline. So you do need to ensure that you submitted your application by the 7th of January, both your MBA and your scholarship applications to be considered. Thank you for your question, Alex. And then actually, just to continue on with Alex's question, I can see you've asked a question about college. Are there different scholarships based on the college I select? So yes, that's actually a really good question. So certain colleges will have particular funding available, though I would say that is something that you would go through the process later. So with the college process that we do have, you do need to have been successful in your application, and you do actually need to accept your offer of place and confirm your offer of place with a deposit payment. And then we can go through the process of putting you forward for a college. And then when you have been successful in receiving membership at that college, I expect at that point would be if there are any sort of funding opportunities within that college that you could look to apply for. So that could be something to determine particular sort of which college it is that you would like to apply for to be a member. But please do note that that process will come a bit later on. Okay, see some great questions coming through. So is it true that the earlier stage you submit an application, the higher chance of success? So yes, good question. Whilst we do recommend an earlier application, so in fact, if we think about at the start of the cycle, that's when we have all of our places available, and then as we move through each stage, it does get competitive as places do start to fill. I would say that it is a good approach to get your application submitted at least by our January deadline. So January does tend to be a high application volume for us. So it does coincide with that university scholarship deadline that we do have. And I guess if you sort of compare to, let's say, US schools, if we think about that round 2 deadline, that round 4 deadline that we do have is comparable to that round 2 deadline. So we do receive a high volume of applications in round 4. So with that in mind, when it comes to round 5, which is our final deadline in the cycle, it can get very competitive. And there have been times where we've operated on a wait list. However, I would say it's really important about thinking about getting that balance right. It is the University of Oxford that you are applying to, so you want to apply when you're ready and when your application is at its strongest. You want to put your best foot forward. Don't force your application in early if you're not ready. And if that strong application comes from you in one of those sort of final rounds, then by all means go ahead and apply. There are places available. It just comes with that caveat that it can get more competitive if we sort of compare it to that round 1 deadline where we have all of our places available. Okay, I have a question regarding work experience. So in terms of years of experience, is there any limitation? So our requirement is that we ask for at least 2 years postgraduate work experience. So that is the requirement. So you need to have at least 2 years in order to be considered for the full-time MBA. In terms of the range of experience that we see students come with, I would say we see students come with a range of 2 up until, I would say, maybe 13, 14 years at the upper end. If you're someone who has sort of more than 15 years of experience, then we do advise the executive MBA might be better suited for you. I think it's really important just to think about the dynamic that you're going to have in the classroom, and maybe a cohort of an executive MBA may be better suited to you than the full-time MBA. Okay, I can see a question from Patrick. Could you describe what is required to be covered in a personal statement? Are there any specific areas you are interested in? So yes, good question. So in terms of the essay question for the application, it is a very open question. The question is there anything that you'd like to make the admissions committee aware of that's not been captured in your application? So I would say there's no real right or wrong, and it's entirely up to you what you use that space for. So some examples could be to address an achievement that you have within your professional experience, within your academic experience. It might even be a personal experience. You may find that the application is very professionally focused, and you may wish to use that space to tell us something about you, about a hobby that you have, a passion, an interest. We do see some applicants use it as a personal statement format. I have seen some candidates use it to address if they feel they have a shortcoming in their profile. It's entirely up to you what you use that space for. And I think it's really important to, when it comes to your application, is to really think about, to get your application to tell a story, your story. And I think as you start working on your application and as you start piecing things together, that should hopefully allow you to hone in and think what it is that you want to use that space for. See a question, does the Oxford MBA have a January intake or just a September one? So for the full-time MBA, we only have the one intake, which is in September. And okay, can see a lot of questions come through, so I'm just having a look. Okay, I can see this is actually a very good question. So will the online assessment, the Career Talent, done within the 7th of January 2026 deadline or after my application has been considered? So yes, very good question. So the online assessment does form part of your MBA application, and the Career Talent assessment does need to be completed by the 7th of January. So, and actually, in order to receive the online assessment link, you need to have at least uploaded your referee's contact details and uploaded your CV, and then that will trigger the online assessment link to be sent within 24 hours. Now, what we often see is that we do see a number of our MBA applicants, maybe they're leaving their application right until the day of the deadline. So let's say they are uploading their CV on that day, on the 7th of January. But then because it can potentially take up to 24 hours to receive that Career Talent link, unfortunately, that does mean that candidates do miss that deadline. So top tip is not to leave your application right until the day of the deadline. So that way you can ensure that you have everything and that you have that link, and you can ensure that you get your application submitted by the deadline. And then I can see another question about what does the online assessment consist of? So yes, the online assessment consists of 3 video questions. And those questions, I would say, are competency-based behavioural style questions. So questions that you would expect to get in an interview, questions that are designed for us to see how you're going to think and react quickly on your feet. And the way it works is that you'll see the question, you'll have a small time frame to gather yourself, prepare your answer, and then the video will start recording, and you'll be on camera answering that question within a short time limit that has been set. Now, there are some practice sessions that you can do, so you don't need to go ahead and do the live assessment straight away. And you can practice as much as you like, getting used to the platform, getting used to being on camera, watching yourself, hearing yourself back, and those practice answers that you do record will just be for you. So no one else in the admissions committee will get to view those. But when it comes to the live assessment, you only get that one take. So do take advantage of those practice sessions. Okay. Okay, I can see a question. If applying to the 1+1, is it 2 applications and 2 separate essays? So yes, good question. So yes, if you are considering the 1+1, it is 2 separate applications that you would be submitting. So you'll be submitting your partnering program application to the relevant sort of partnering program, whichever master's degree it is that you're applying to, and then you will be submitting your MBA application to us. And I would say that the only difference with your MBA application is that there is an additional essay question. And that essay is for you to answer why is it that you are considering the 1+1. So what is it about the partnering program that is appealing to you, and how is that going to help you with your post-MBA career goals? And then also importantly, I'd like to mention the Pershing Square Scholarship that was actually mentioned in the virtual session. For your MBA application, do submit the Pershing Square Scholarship application, and that does also need to be submitted by the 7th of January. Pershing Square is a great sort of fantastic, very prestigious scholarship, and if you are successful, it does come with funding for both programs. and a living stipend. And it is important to note that both of your applications are treated separately, so we don't liaise with the partnering programme departments. Okay. Is it important to mention financial need in the application to be considered for scholarships? I would say no to that question, actually. Majority of our scholarships are based on merit. They are not based on financial need. There may be sort of a couple of scholarships that may have a slight exception. So I know SCOL does have a certain element of financial need, and the Laidlaw Scholarship as well, my understanding, has a slight in terms of financial need, but otherwise our scholarships are merit-based. So the committee are going to be looking at merit-based achievements that you're demonstrating in your application. So that could be through academic degree results, through GMAT, GRE, through professional experiences, anything merit-based that you can demonstrate in your application. Okay, I can see a question from Solomon. What percentage of spots are available for the stage 4 deadline? So it's not really a case in terms of a percentage of spots. I would say that we do look at applications. So your application is being considered with everyone else in that round. So it's not necessarily in terms of a particular sort of metric that we have in terms of do we have a certain percentage of offers that we give out each stage. It is, we look at applications holistically, and we're going to be reviewing the applications, and it is really how your applications sort of fare amongst others who are also applying in that round. So it is important to, again, to really think about putting in a strong application, a competitive application. Okay, I can see a question around colleges. How do I know which college is most suitable for me? So I'd say we have a good number of colleges. There are approximately sort of 38 colleges available, and if anything, as an MBA student, everything that you need for your MBA will be at the business school. So the college is really an added value for you. It's where you can look to expand your network beyond the business school, where you can look to join a sport or a society and really sort of get embedded within that wider Oxford University experience. So what I would recommend is have a look at the colleges that we do have. You can go onto the postgraduate website and review the different sort of colleges, and which colleges do accept graduate students. We do have some colleges that are only for undergraduates, so that wouldn't be applicable in this case. Then we do have colleges that are mixed, and then colleges that are only for graduate students. So that's actually something to bear in mind. Do you want to be in a college that is mixed, or do you just want to be in a graduate college? And there are some other factors as well for you to think about in terms of the network that you want to have. But I'd certainly recommend having a look at the pages that we do have on our website. So I can see a question from Priyanka. Is there a maximum age for the application, and what is the average age of participants in the programme, and does that impact the admissions decision? So in terms of average age, so if we think about the average years of experience, I'd say it's 5 to 6 years. So I expect that the average age sort of falls at sort of 28, 29. But I also think it's important not to sort of get fixated on averages. And I'd say that the age range can be anything from sort of 24 until I would say sort of late 30s. Again, just if you're someone who has more than 15 years experience, you may find that the executive MBA might be better suited to you. Yeah. I see a question from Alex. Does the Oxford MBA programme encourage internships, and how do they work, and are they for the summer term? And also, does Oxford have a job placement services or careers fair? Okay, so to answer your first question in terms of internships, so in the summer term you have some options available to you. So you have 3 options, and one of them is to do an internship. So it is an internship for credit, and what that means is so you can work quite closely with our Careers Development Centre in securing an internship. And those internships aren't necessarily in the UK as well. We do often see students go off to do international internships. So if you're someone who's looking to make a pivot in your career, then the internship is a great opportunity to do that. And then in terms of sort of careers fairs and careers provision, so there is a careers provision that's provided to you throughout your entire year on the MBA. And that support does start early, as was mentioned in the virtual session. So in June, you'll start hearing from our Careers Development Centre. We do see recruiters that come onto campus. We do have industry advisors that you can look to get expert advice from. There'll be particular workshops and events. And I'd say that the Careers Development Centre, they do very much have an open door policy, but it's important to note that the ownership of your career is on you. So it's really how you're going to engage with the Careers Development Centre. Okay, I can see another application question. Do referees' references need to be by the 7th of January deadline? Yes, everything in your application needs to be submitted by the stage deadline. So if you are aiming for stage 4, then that is the 7th of January. So when it comes to your referees, I'd say top tip is to lock in those referees early. And in fact, I would recommend giving them an earlier deadline, so that way you're not having to chase them. And then another question regarding references is, how long is the average length of a competent reference statement? Is there a typical number of words you tend to see? So I would say a page or 2 max is sufficient, will suffice for a letter of recommendation. So in terms of the letter of recommendations, we ask you to add professional contact details on to your application, and they will receive a link to complete an online reference. We ask your referees to rate some behaviours, just some general competencies, and then they are required to upload a letter of recommendation, which is free text. I often do see a number of referees, they like to use those behaviours as a guideline, and they go into a little bit more detail, give the admissions committee some examples of those particular behaviours. But I would say sort of a page, 2 pages at the max will be sufficient for a letter of recommendation. Thank you for your question. I can see quite a few questions regarding the personal statement, and do I have any tips for a personal statement and what makes an exceptional personal statement? So I think I mentioned in terms of the personal statement, the essay question, it's a very open question. And in fact, so the question is there anything that you'd like to make the admissions committee aware of that's not been captured in your application? So I think as you start working on your application, it should allow you to really think about what to use that space for. So in terms of your academics, the committee can see that through your transcripts. Your GMAT, your GRE, will be able to see that through your score report. If you think about in terms of your CV, in terms of what it is that you're adding in your CV, the information that you're providing about your current role, the questions in the post-MBA career plan. And as you start working on those questions, that should allow you to think about what it is that's potentially missing and what it is that you want to use that space for. So that is one way to think about how to tackle that personal statement. I think in terms of successful personal statements, I think it's those that are, who are being really authentic and are telling us about them. And of course, as we think about in terms of AI, please don't use AI for that statement. We'll be able to notice that. But I think it's really important to be authentic in that statement and really give the committee a picture of who it is that you are, and you can use that to convey your motivations, to tell a story, or tell us who it is that you're going to be, what it is that you're going to be like on the programme, and what value it is that you're going to add to the cohort. I understand that it can be quite difficult because it is a very open question, but as you start working on your application, hopefully that would allow you to really think about what it is that you want to use that space for. And then another question about the Kira online assessment. No, I believe you can practice as much as you like. So once you do receive that link, you have limited time to be able to answer that, to practice those questions in the online assessment. Okay, I can see a question from Mashari. Hello, I was wondering if the MBA has sub-specialization. So I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, in terms of the MBA, the final degree awarded is Master of Business Administration. We do have particular pathways, which are, I'd say, more sort of guided forms of study. So let's say if you're someone who's interested in finance, we would recommend some particular finance electives, some particular sort of co-curriculars that you could look to get involved with in terms of which clubs, the Oxford Business Networks. So there are particular sort of guidelines, guided forms of study that we can recommend. But no, there is no sort of official sort of specialisation, and the final degree that is awarded is Master of Business Administration. Okay, I can see a few questions that are coming through. I'm trying my best to get through them all. So are there any different scholarships based on the college I select in the application? So Yeah, so again, just to confirm with colleges, so actually when it comes to your MBA application, you will not need to specify your college. So there's no section in the MBA application where you would specify which college it is that you would like to become a member of. The college process does start once you have been admitted. So if you are successful in securing a place on the program, that's when you would notify us in terms of which college it is that you would want to apply for, where you'd want us to submit your application for membership. And in order for us to do that, you do need to have accepted your offer of place, and you do need to confirm that with a deposit payment. So that is when that college process would work. And then in terms of any particular scholarships, so I would recommend when it comes to looking at colleges, do have a look at which scholarships particular colleges do have, if there are any that are applicable for you. So thinking about, again, if some of them are undergraduate only sort of scholarships or graduate only, look at the different criteria that they do have, and then that might determine which college it is that you want to go for membership for, and then those scholarships process will take place a bit later on. Okay, oh yes, I can see a good question about the 1+1. So if I apply to the 1+1 and I'm admitted to only one of the two programs, can I still enroll in the one that accepted to me? So yes is the short answer. Let me just go into that in a little bit more detail. So yes, with the 1+1, we do often see with applicants that maybe they have been successful in one program over the other. So let's just say, as an example, if you are successful for your master's degree, but you are unsuccessful for the MBA, then yes, you can go ahead and sort of accept your master's degree. And then in fact, whilst you're on course on that program, you are more than welcome to reapply for the MBA the following year. Now, let's say if it's the other way around, let's say you are unsuccessful in your master's degree, but you are successful for your MBA, then what we would advise is that you have a conversation with us, and if, depending on where you are in the cycle, so if there are other programs that you wish to apply for, then there may be the opportunity to do that in terms of filling that first year. Or if it is a case that you just want to come and do the MBA and you want to bring your MBA forward, because I think it's important to note, if you are applying for the 1+1, technically you are applying for the MBA for the following year. But if you do want to bring that forward, then that is a conversation that we can have, and yes, we can look to potentially sort of bring your MBA application forward. And then I can see a question regarding electives. Are we only able to select electives from the business school, or can we sit in some of the classes from other schools, for example, engineering? So yes, good question. I would say everything that you need for your MBA will be at the business school. So in terms of electives, all of your electives will be at the business school. There may be the opportunity, let's say, to audit a particular class within a different department. And I would say that's something that you would need to go and arrange in terms of thinking about the networks that you'll make. There's nothing to stop you doing that, but I'd say that would be not for credit. Everything for credit will be at the business school. Are internships available during the one-year full-time MBA program? So yes, Kathleen, there is. In the summer term, you have 3 options available to you. So one of them is to do 2 further electives. One is to do a strategic consulting project, and then the other is to do an internship. So it is an internship for credit, and you can work quite closely with the Careers Development Centre in securing an internship. Okay, I can see a question regarding Pershing Square from Anna. Thank you for your question, Anna. If applying for Pershing, will they just see the funding essay or your MBA application? So yes, my understanding for the committee, when they are considering Pershing, I believe they will be looking at all of your applications. So, and it would be a case of you would have had to been successful for your master's degree application. So I expect that they may maybe consider that application, your MBA application, and then also your Pershing Square scholarship application. And then another question just regarding sort of 1+1. Do the master's applications have a different deadline than the MBA? Is the January deadline across both if applying for 1+1? So yes, good question. I expect that a lot of the master's degrees do have separate application deadlines. And in fact, what we tend to see is, for us on the MBA, we tend to open up applications quite early, and then I understand that they tend to open up some of their graduate graduate applications a bit later. But for the 1+1, you need to have at least submitted both of your applications by the January deadline. I would expect that some of those partnering programs will also have a deadline that is comparable to that January deadline, or if it is later, then that's something that you can do in terms of submitting that master's degree application at that relevant deadline. But you need to have submitted your MBA and your Pershing Square scholarship. So that would be your 1+1 MBA application and your Pershing Square scholarship application by the 7th of January deadline. And then I can see a question, when do we get feedback in regards to our application? So yes, good question. So I would actually recommend, if you go onto our website and if you go onto the home page, and you can actually, where you can view our deadlines, you can also view dates of when final decisions will be announced. So in fact, if we take the January deadline as an example, so I expect there may be many of you who are working on your application for the 7th of January. So once that 7th of January deadline has passed, the committee will be processing and reviewing those applications. And I would expect approximately maybe a 3-week turnaround, a 3 to 4 week turnaround of when it is that you can expect to hear back on a shortlisting decision. So we do have an interview process. So I expect within 3 to 4 weeks, you can hear back if you've been successful in being shortlisted for an interview. And then we do have a period of where we do conduct interviews. And in fact, when it comes to those interviews, we do conduct interviews virtually. We do have a very international cohort. We do also travel to interviews as well. So we may be traveling in a country, in a city near you. And then we do also offer some interviews in Oxford as well. So there will be a period of where we'll be interviewing, and then the feedback from your interview will go back to the committee for a final review. And for stage 4, I believe those final decisions will be announced. I believe it's the 6th of March. So that's when you'll hear back on a final decision of your application. But I would recommend having a look on our webpage, and where you view the stage deadlines, you can also view the dates of those final decisions. Okay, will I still be considered for an MBA if my undergraduate or graduate degree was below 2.1? So yes, good question. And yes is the short answer to that. So we do look at applications holistically. And in terms of that 2.1, so yes, we do ask that your bachelor's degree be equivalent to a UK 2.1 or above. But that is not a hard requirement. And I've certainly seen applicants who have had lower degrees, so whether that's sort of been a 2.2 or even slightly lower, and they have been successful on the programme. I think it's really important to note, in terms of that holistic view, that you can look to balance out your application. And in fact, if you are someone who does have a lower bachelor's degree, a lower GPA, then one way to do that is to actually think about actually raising that GMAT GRE, and that can actually compensate for a lower GPA. But yes is the short answer to that. That won't be sort of it's not a hard requirement in terms of that GPA. Okay, so thank you for your question. Does it work against you if you have the same referees for your MBA and Master's Programme MPP, especially if the Pershing Committee sees both set of references which may be similar? Good question. I don't think so, no, because in fact, when it comes to your MBA application and your MPP application, it's important to note that they are treated separately. So that won't be the case. And then yes, when it comes to that Pershing Square scholarship application, I think it's also maybe just to be mindful in terms of the referees that you are asking, just to note that it is going to be 2 letters of recommendation that they will be submitting. And I would expect that in terms of the other particular programs that we do have, those partnering programs, they would have different processes, different guidelines, I would expect, when it comes to submitting that letter of recommendation. But no, I would say that it shouldn't work against you. If they are the people who know you well, if they're going to be an advocate for you in your application, then yes, by all means, do choose those referees. That is the advice that I give when it comes to referees, is to be strategic and think about who it is that. No, I think it goes without saying you want to select people who are going to say nice things about you and who are going to be a strong advocate for you for your MBA application. I can see a question from Sharia. So I had a 3-month gap in my job. So no, if you do have, if there is a short gap in your employment, then no, I'd say that's not going to necessarily affect your application in any way. And in fact, if that's something that you want to address, then in fact, I would recommend that you do that in that essay question. So in that personal statement, if it's something that you want to make the admissions committee aware of, and if there's a story behind that or something that you want to ensure is clear, because I think that's also important, is to ensure that your application is very clear to the admissions committee. So Sharia, you could look to use the personal statement to address that, but no, that shouldn't affect your application in any way if there is a short gap that you do have. Thank you for your question. Okay, so I can see there's just a couple of more questions that are coming through, so let me. Okay, so I have a question. Assuming my application didn't adequately reflect my potential, will I get another chance to thrive where my emotional intelligence and business acumen can tell more? So, apologies, I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question. In fact, let me answer the question how I understand it, but please do submit it again if I have this incorrect. So, in terms of your application, so in terms of your online assessment, and I think what I'm getting at is, let's say if you don't feel that you perform as strongly in your online assessment. Again, I would say that the application, when it comes to reviewing your application, we review applications holistically. It's your entire application that's going to be considered, and not one criteria holds more weight than the other. So the committee are going to be looking at your academic history. They're going to be looking at your professional experiences, your GMAT, your GRE, your essay question, your career plan, your letters of recommendation, your online assessment. So it is your entire profile that's going to be considered. In terms of that online assessment, so if you feel that you didn't perform as strongly in your online assessment, but then you have been successful in being shortlisted for an interview, then I'd say that's really for you to really think about how it is that you're going to shine in your interview, and how it is that you're going to get your personality across. And actually in your interview, that's where the interviewer will look to assess that emotional intelligence, will be assessing your motivations for the MBA, exploring your career goals, and there will be some competency-based questions on there. Also, I think what's important to note is, so in terms of those round deadlines that we do have, you can only apply once in the admission cycle. So let's say if you are successful, let's say if you are unsuccessful in your application. So if you're submitting an application in stage 4 and you are unsuccessful, I'm afraid you can't reapply again in stage 5. You'd have to wait until the following year. So it is important to really apply when you're ready and when your application is at its strongest. So I hope that answers your question. I hope I've understood that correctly. Okay, so I think that's all the questions that have been answered. If there are any other questions that anyone does have, please do use the Q&A to submit those. We do have a couple of more minutes remaining, so happy to get those answered. Okay. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining this afternoon. I say my afternoon, but if it's morning or evening your time. I hope you've enjoyed the virtual sort of explore the program session, and thank you all for your questions. If there are any other questions that you do have, please feel free to get in touch with the team. But otherwise, I wish you the best of luck with your application. Thank you and all the best. Goodbye for now.